Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, folks, and welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desi, and so far tonight, I am glad to say I am joined by our resident tactician, the man in the suburbs, Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, everyone.
And from across the water, I believe he's across the water. He's always across some water. It may be to the east, it may be to the south, but the man across the water, Monty Burns. Monty C. Burns. Good evening, Monty.
Evening, Desi. Evening, lads.
Yes, thanks very much for joining us, gents. We are, as I say on every podcast, we hope that Ralph can join us tonight. The last report we had was approximately 6 minutes ago, where he said, "I will be there presently. A quick trip to the fridge is needed first." So we don't know where his fridge is, if he's actually walking it to the Co-op in Stoke, or maybe I don't know if they've got a Scott Mid, but the equivalent of Scott Mid, he may be just going to pick up some cans of Carling Black Label, his favourite beverage, if anyone from Carling is listening. But we hope to have Ralph join us very soon. So we did hope to have this podcast last week, because there was some, let's be honest, gents, there was some rather heated discussion on our WhatsApp group of how to react to the very close 6-0 game against Atletico. Some people have different opinions, but we'll come to that. We'll go back a little bit in time. Hector, from the last time we chatted was the 2 each game with Atletico. Hold on, this could be Ralph. Join us. Good evening, Ralph. Are you online?
Yep. Look at that for organisation.
Well, perfect timing. Have you got your Carling Black Label at hand, or will you be going to the fridge again? Because the listeners are wondering where you've been. Right, so he's sorted. Well, welcome, Ralph. Thanks for joining us. So the last time we talked was the 2 each game against Atletico, and we were very impressed by Celtics, especially the first half performance, and of course the star turn by Griezmann, etc. Since then, Hector, we had the Hibs 0-0 game. We had a 2-1 win against St Mirren, coming from 1 down. Then we beat Ross County 3-0 away, and if anyone wants to mention Malky Mackay being sacked today, and the front runners being Neil Lennon and Scott Brown, apparently, according to the media tonight, for that job. And then we had that Atletico 6-0 gubbing with Maeda being sent off. The whole VAR, we could probably have an hour on the VAR conversation, considering the headline it's had. And then we had an Aberdeen bounce back 6-0 win. So, Hector, since the last time we chatted, 5 games. Your overall thoughts? Is it this Brendan getting things ticking over?
You're going to get in a season, you're going to get ups and downs, aren't you? I mean, unless the expectation is that Celtic win every single game, which I think a very small percentage of fans probably have that, certainly domestically. So, Hibs away, it's me, my opinion, may be wrong, the facts may bear me out to be talking shite as I normally do, but I think normally after a tough European game, the first league game after that, there tends to be some sort of, I wouldn't say, probably a dip. And in fact, across the city, they were the same, weren't they, at home to Hearts, until they got that wonderful penalty the 91st minute at home to Hearts, and they didn't look like scoring either. So against Hibs, these things happen, nothing each. St Mirren wasn't great, but we came back and won, which was good. Ross County was quite straightforward. Could have won probably about 7. Their keeper was outstanding. Maybe stopped it from being 6 or 7. And then obviously we come to the 2 more recent ones, which no doubt the bulk of the conversation is going to be about tonight, I take it. Atletico, yeah. We could talk about Atletico. Listen, we spoke before the game. Atletico Madrid are one of the best teams in Europe. That's just how it is right now, right? Champions League, are they going to win it? Probably not. Will they get to the quarterfinals? Probably. So we're playing against probably one of the top 8 teams in Europe at their ground. If their players played okay, should they win? Of course they should. They should beat us by a bit to spare, 2 or 3 goals. So I've not seen anything there I think that anyone sane of mind would probably disagree with. But here's where it becomes emotional. When your team gets pumped 6-0, it's sore as fuck. It really is sore. And no matter how we sugarcoat it or put up reason A or reason B for it, it hurts. especially just after the match is finished. It's when you look back a day or two later and you have a conversation about it, you go, well, let's be honest here. Losing a player after 20 minutes, wrongly red carded, and a guy for us who, he's not our best defender, but you know what I mean, in terms of probably our best pressure player, if that makes sense. You know, the guy covers 2 or 3 positions. To have him removed and then have 70 plus minutes away to Atletico Madrid, it was the hiding to nothing. And that's how it turned out. So, of course, we're all disappointed. I was disappointed. But then there's that, a day or two later, guys, let's get a bit of sense of perspective on this. And I think sometimes some fans, yourself included, Desi, don't have that sense of perspective.
I don't know if that was a dig at me there. I like what you did all the same. But I like talking about some fans getting a sense of perspective. Ralph's on. Ralph, I don't know if you noticed Chris Sutton lambasting, I think it was Ian Ladywell the other day because he was having a go at Celtics regards the 6-0 gubbing at Atletico. The whole talk sport world were trying to have a go, and Sutton was basically saying, Ladywell giving a view, I think it was like a view from afar of Scottish football, clearly out of his depth and waffling on when he should just leave it to the professionals because he's just making a fool of himself. So, Ralph, how did you feel turning up on Sportsound at the weekend? How did it go?
I don't know.
This confirm to everyone who's listening, you are now Kenny McIntyre's best pal, is that correct?
Oh, out for drinks all the time. Out for drinks. Christmas cards, everything now.
Can you just to let the guys on the call know, I turned up at Celtic Park at the weekend and I didn't even get anywhere near my seat before someone started kind of tapping me on the shoulder. I heard your pal there, and I was like, sorry, heard your pal I heard your pal there, your man, heard your man. What man? E. Tim's man. What's that? Aye, McGinley on Sportsound. What's he doing hanging about with that mob? So that is the common view. Ultimately, he said you did all right, and as I mentioned to you, Ralph, all right is equivalent of a standing ovation in Glaswegian.
Sell out.
Exactly, total sellout.
One decent line.
What was the premise? Bring everybody up to speed. What's the premise? How did you become a friend of the BBC?
They just asked. And I'm short of friends, as you know.
So, hold on. Just to be clear here, I know we're going off for a tangent, but they just asked, and you managed to turn up every time. You've managed to turn up every time they've asked you so far, yet you can't turn up for an E-Tim's podcast without pulling into a motorway service station and keeping your indicators on. Is that what you're telling us? I think we're starting to see a sense of perspective here. So what was the questions then on Saturday? What did they ask you, and what was your conversation? Because it's really interesting.
The Madrid game, and I 100% agree with Hector. It was a real bad start. If you think about it as well, they targeted Palma and Maeda, the two guys that are causing the most trouble. They'd done their homework, and more than any other team that we played in Europe for a long time, they took us really seriously, and they raised their game. And we can maybe take some kind of consolation from that. If we'd have held out till half time, it probably wouldn't have been 6-0. You imagine the head went down after the sending off. They went down again when they went into the tunnel at half time, and they just never came back up. That's the way I looked at that game. It's one of the things, like Hector's just said, it happens during the course of a season. It's done now. On to the next one.
And what about Kenny's question to you then? Was it loaded in any way? Do you think it was fair? Was it perfectly free and open, so to speak, or did you feel there was an agenda? I'm not saying there was. I'm just asking, honestly, because none of us would listen to you on Sportsound, so that's why I need to ask.
Just think about it. Pat Nevin is.
Oh, for fuck's sake. You're saying so well. Never forget, Pat Nevin's the guy who now goes to Easter Road to enjoy talking about David Bowie B-sides. Rare David Bowie. This is Pat Nevin's words. I go to Easter Road with my son now, and I love it there because I can talk about rare David Bowie B-sides rather than listen to fans at Celtic Park singing songs about the IRA. That was Pat Nevin's own words. Carry on.
one of the, there might have been Kenny McIntyre said something. No, it was Tom English.
Oh, Jesus. Fuck's sake.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
This is like one of the, not like they have, who would be your perfect dinner party? Who would be your worst dinner?
Fuck me. In the space of 3 sentences, it's clear that there's not enough fucking soup on the planet for the two of them to take between Nevin
Was it sponsored
and
by
English.
Campbell's?
Jesus. Fucking Campbell's out of business.
Did you talk
Good
about football
God.
at all? Was it rugby you spoke about? Rugby, David Bowie B-sides and
Rugby, David
Rangers
Bowie
pubs?
B-sides.
And he says that the Celtics
that's
terrible. They'd conceded 12 goals, which was the second worst in the whole competition. And then Pat Nevin says, well, hold on a minute. How many of those goals did they concede with 11 men on the pitch? Which I thought was a fair point. Because we have suffered from bad decisions, bad luck, and everything else in the campaign. We don't deserve to be in it with just 1 point, and I still think we're in my shout.
Okay.
Not very.
Right, so clearly there was something in that soup because you're clearly getting deluded now. But that's so Tom English, Pat Nevin, and Kenny McIntyre and Ralph Malph walk into a bar. If someone can come up with a punchline to that joke, please send it into etims.contact@gmail.com.
Do you know the only person that's missing, unless Ralph says he actually had lunch with him after the show, was Mo Johnston waiting for you at the fucking car park?
I'm waiting to hear Gordon Smith, somebody like that, or Billy Dodds that's on the line. So you're no sin died. You're going to be. You can look forward to you being back on very soon, Ralph. As I said, you did get a rating of he did all right from the guy behind me, so you're doing no bad.
High praise.
And he actually introduced as from Tims, because this could be a worry here, because we've got demanded our copyright master in the top corner here, Monty, may be having to make some invoices up.
No,
Right.
Definitely not.
That's well, okay. That's good. We're glad you've managed to fit us into your tight schedule. We know you're very busy around this time of year, so that's good to have you. And Monty Seaburn. So Monty, where are we? Let's come up to speed. So again, I'll just quickly touch on the whole Malky Mackay. Monty, I know you wouldn't be expecting to talk about him tonight, but Ross County 9. I think there's about 4 teams in the bottom 6 of all having won in 9 games. It's gotten a bit crazy down there. So Malky Mackay, could you see Lenny being interested? A very good friend of yours, Lenny. You think he could be interested in going to Ross County?
I think he'd take that one before the St Johnstone one that he was linked with. I think it's strange that they sacked him. The Mackay's obviously a good coach, but you know, it would be the owner of a football club that'll struggle in that bottom half. So would Lennon take it? I think he would. But it's a hard one. I'm puzzled by how he stays out of football for so long. Genuinely, without going down the Neil Lennon Supporters Club rabbit hole, he's won loads as a player. England and Scotland. Has won a treble as a manager in Scotland. With everything against him, won a trophy overseas with that mad club he was with. Yet he struggles to get even linked with jobs other than low-end sort of Scottish Premiership jobs. So I don't think Lenny gets a fair crack of the whip, but would he take it? I think he would. I think the man just needs to get back into football. Probably his severance pay out of Cyprus is probably running low. So, yeah, surprised though they sacked him, Desi. I thought Mackay was doing a decent job with limited resources. So you got to wonder if you are Lennon taking that job, what's the realistic expectation? Keep them up. Did Mackay get them top 6, I think, first season?
I'm not sure, but I think what was the big striker's name? Because he was a great player. Remember Charles Cook, was it?
Cook guy. He went down south, didn't he? He went.
I think he went to like Belgium or so. He went abroad. I think he came from down south and went abroad. But you just prompted me there because Craig Levine got the St Johnstone job, and I did have to laugh. I've just looked up Lenny's Wikipedia. So achievements. So manager, SPL Manager of the Year, Scottish Football Writers Manager of the Year 3 times, Sports Sunday Mail Sports Award Editor's Choice, SPL Manager of the Month 3 times, whatever. No, that's what 9 times. Premiership Manager, Championship Manager, blah blah. Craig Levine's claim to fame. Sorry, that's your award. Sorry, we've got Scottish Premiership, Scottish Premier League, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Premier Leagues, Scottish Cups, 4 Scottish Cups, and a League Cup, and then he won the Scottish Championship with Hibs, and then he won the Cypriot Cup with Ammonia. So that's actual titles as well as awards. Craig Levein, the reason I was looking at awards are Craig Levein's achievements in football, Scottish football, as SPL Manager of the Month for 2 months. That's literally it. And you kind of go, how did he even end up staying so well in football? Obviously, might be one of the good coaches, but then he goes to St Johnstone and suddenly they've got the dead cat bounce, so to speak, and suddenly they're pulling up trees and they're off the bottom of the league. Nice to see Livingston. Nice to see Livingston at the bottom of the league. We can all fingers crossed that long continues. So yes, right. So as Hector said, that brings us up to Atletico. So we did have a kind of heated discussion. We'll stick with Monty. So Monty, you and Hector were kind of on similar themes of it's just one of those games. You just have to take it on the chin, for want of a classic Mowbray phrase, and move on. And I was coming back. I was playing a wee bit of devil's advocate and just kind of saying, do we think so? Monty, do you think Brendan will have learned anything for that game? Let alone, we'll come to Hector regarding the players, but do you think Brendan would have learned anything from that game?
I think he would have picked up on a tactical nuance that McGregor talked about. McGregor called it a clinic. Callum McGregor called it a clinic in how to play against 10 men. And he played the game. How Atletico set up and how they literally took us apart with 10 men was, I think, a tactical masterclass for any manager even to look at, because we have a certain way of playing when we get down to 10 men and we have a certain way of playing when we're man up. There was one sort of, I wouldn't call it a mitigation. We got pumped. But actually, when you look back at their goals, the first goal is a deflection. Poor-headed clearance and a deflection. The second goal is a thing of beauty made by Griezmann. It's just a thing of beauty. Their third and fourth goals were really top drawer finishes, like Griezmann's scissor kick. You know, the quality in their goal, it almost seemed like everything that they hit that was on target went in. They had one of those nights. But that's not to detract from the fact that they were going to pump us anyway, and they did, as Hector said. They're 2 or 3 goals better than us. They're in the top 8 of European sides. So I think for Brenton, the way that they took us apart by effectively going to, they almost had 5 at the back against 10 men, stretched the pitch so wide that it didn't matter when we got compact, which every team that plays a man down will be, and I'm sure Hector will expand on this. It didn't matter how good our shape was. They just had us completely stretched and destroyed. We couldn't get out of our half, and it wasn't for lack of trying, lack of quality, or lack of setup. It was just it was a top drawer, and as Ralph pointed out, they took us really seriously. I think we should take it as a compliment, but that's it. It's still a 6-0 pumping. It hurts.
Yeah, so and so I'm just looking. So I'm looking, Hector. I am coming to you. I am looking at the Google stats or the Google information, and they've got a few wee videos. I'm just reading the titles, and one just says absolutely magnificent finishing, as Monty alluded to. But the stats, I know you love a stat, Hector. You're always talking about how much you love stats.
Love my stats.
Oh, you love stats on Twitter/X. So again, right. So Atletico v Celtic. Shots, Atletico 27. Shots on target 12. If you imagine 6 goals, that's on. But again, not only 66% possession. You would think a team at 1-6-0 would be, or maybe we wouldn't. Not only 66% possession, 770 passes compared to Celtic's 400. So again, that's relatively close. It's no crazy margins, I would say. But a pass accuracy, so come back to what Monty kind of touched on here, Hector. A pass accuracy, 92%.
But what I would like to mention stats, and that can tell a lot of the story. I'd like to know the stats first half compared to second half, and stats 11v11 compared to 11v10 for 70 plus minutes, because it makes a hell of a difference. And I can't remember them having too many shots other than their goal until Maeda gets sent off. I actually thought we were zipping about well the first 20 odd minutes. So I think one thing you asked a question, Monty, there, that has Brendan learned? Obviously, the players, quality of player, we all know that. I think one thing that they must have picked up on is, and I say discipline can sound like a bad word as if we're a nasty team. We're not a nasty team. It's in terms of being streetwise on the pitch and when to make a challenge, when not to make a challenge. So the Maeda red card, for example, it's never a red card. We all know that. But what's happened is he's put himself in a position to bring in the officials. And just by not even making that challenge, it takes yourself out of that equation. It sounds easy, doesn't it? But most of the top teams, they tend to not get involved. You know, you don't tend to see the top teams losing 1 and 2 players on a regular basis at this level. So for us to lose 3 players in 4 games, that's something that we really need to tighten up on, I think, in terms of next season, unless Ralph's promise of a miracle, God bless simple minds, happens over the next 2 games, which nobody's saying thinks is going to happen.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I thought the Alistair Johnson conversation, our interview after, I think he was speaking to someone after it a few days later, and he said it's the first, Ralph, he said it's the first time he'd ever been involved in a game of football like that, where the opposition can do anything they want to you. So he basically, but he's like, we have to learn how to shore up defensively, because again, the line was all over the place. Players, but at that time, it must be like it's a collective sense of panic. Let's be honest, even though you're a professional footballer being paid tens of thousands of pounds a week or whatever, when you're somebody better than you, taking the piss out of you, so to speak, your sense of panic must go straight through the roof, Ralph, and the adrenaline, just to try and cover up a space, and that ultimately leaves another space for a really good team to exploit, and before you know it, you'll get 4 Celtic players standing and the ball's nowhere near them, those sort of things. So interesting. Do you think they'll learn, Ralph, as a team?
It's a combination of panic and despair, because as the game continues, it gets worse, and he's trying to do something about something that's already happened, and ultimately you then get that sense that the players just want it over with. And Atletico, they're on a high. What they're doing is working. It's kind of similar to the Chicago Never Stop thing. They just went out to rub it, and they obviously don't like us from 50 years ago. They just wanted to rub it in. Simple as that. Their plan had worked, to get rid of their 2 danger men, or at least calm them down a wee bit, and that was that.
Ask a wee, just as you were talking there, Ralph, I was thinking about it. So we go to Atletico and we lose Maeda, we get pumped 6-0, but even 11-11, let's be blunt, right? They should still beat us with a bit to spare, comfortably, right? 9 times out of 10. But then 3 weeks or whatever prior to that at Celtic Park is a wonderful game of football, 2 each, probably on the night, probably overall fair reflection, but it was a wonderful game. The reason I'm bringing this up is we beat Aberdeen 6-0 there, right? We did to Aberdeen what Atletico did to us, albeit they had 11 players. And this is where I think it becomes interesting. We can go to POTY and get a really tough game. You know, we tend to win most of the time, but it's a tough game a lot of the time, isn't it? I will get the occasional 3-0 or 4-0 win, but it'll be a 2-1 or a 3-2 or a late winner at POTY. It got me thinking, is that almost like us domestically, how we play with likes of Aberdeen and other teams, compared to how we are trying to compete with Atletico Madrid or the Paris Saint-Germains or the Real Madrids? Is it almost that where we can give them a bit of a game at home for an hour, maybe lucky 90 minutes, but then once you go away, it's like these teams come to Celtic Park where you're ripe for a doing, simply because they're far better players than what we've got. Is it simple as that?
I think it's incomprehensible to the ordinary punter. It'd be great if we had a professional footballer on here to actually confirm it. But we just assume people can play football, and you can't. I don't know. Again, maybe, but I can't comprehend how you can have so many different levels within football. I.e., a microsecond makes all the difference. like great players like your Griezmann, he looks so he's wearing slippers and smoking cigars. That sort of way. And when he gets a chance, Ralph always talked about Celtic strikers hitting the ball straight to the keeper. When these players get the chance, they hit the side, inside in the net. That sort of way. The ball's never anywhere near the keeper. It's always straight into the goal. And there's just these wee tight. You think they're wee tiny differences, but they make a wee quarter of a second, not even a half second to find a space. They've always got another 5 yards. And somebody, when every time they play the ball, somebody else is moving for the ball, or they don't even need to look up because they know exactly where somebody is. Does that then mean they've been coached to another level also? I mean, like that, all these wee factors just contribute and make
I think a lot of it, you just hit the nail on the head, Desi. It's how the players are coached. That the most important person at any football club is the manager. It's just a fact. It's born out of every successful team. Every successful team we've ever had, every successful team, if you look across world football, it's down to the manager. When we had O'Neill talked about the differences between top-level professional footballers. And they're tiny margins. You're talking a fraction of a second to do 10 yards, 20 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards, accuracy with the ball. But O'Neill always talked about if he had a choice between the guy with the ability or the guy with the attitude, because the margins were so fine, he would go for the guy with the right attitude. Because as far as he was concerned, when the shit hit the fan, he's the guy that'll keep going, with a guy who maybe has a sense of ego or an inflated sense of ego will fall away. And I think Simeone is without a doubt a top class manager. So's Rodgers. What you seen there in the first game was arguably a very similar outcome to us against Guardiola's Man City. It was Guardiola when Rodgers was here the first time, wasn't it? Guardiola was their manager. We drew 3 each with them and drew with them down there.
3-3-1-1.
Yeah, 3-3-1-1. And I had a sense after the first 20 minutes of that match against Atletico Madrid that we were going to get a draw. I genuinely did. I thought top tier coached, top tier thought through, matched 1-1. You're now down to us having maybe a better collective attitude, countered by the fact that we're up against better players, as Hector said. And I think that's fascinating. And we don't get that in any shape or form domestically. So we get a double bounce domestically. And I know we've talked about, the challenge that comes from the other side of the city and where we'll be. By and large, if we look after ourselves and stay professional, we'll have a better quality of player by those tiny margins, but always have a better quality of manager. And you put those two together, we really should be winning 9 out of 10. 9 times out of 10, 9 trophies out of 10, whatever metric you want to put on them. But it's interesting that I was just going to round it out. It is interesting that when we stumble or we get put out like we did in the League Cup by Kilmarnock, it tends to be at a time of transition. But once we're settled into our groove and settled into our rhythm, by and large domestically, unless we run out of steam, unless we've been trained too hard at the wrong time of the year, you look at those sort of the couple of league titles we lost under O'Neill, where we just blew up in the last 3 or 4 games. If we look after ourselves, we should be by and large the dominant force domestically. But to your point, Desi, no, I don't think we get the same level of challenge because the top guy, the management or the coach, is the differentiator, I think, when it comes to all this. Sorry, Hector, I kind of rambled on about that.
So I was just going to say that, so out of the 4 games, Ralph's point, this has been an outlier by some distance. I think the first 3 games, although we lost 2 of the first 3 games, away to Feyenoord, we've all had this conversation, right? I think the first half we were every bit as good as, if not better than Feyenoord, just up until, lo and behold, half-time, Kyogo and Joe make a mistake, 2 red cards, second half, game's a bogey. Home to Lazio, I thought were the better team. Home to Atletico, great game, 2 each, probably fair. So I think that game was the outlier, no doubt, aided and abetted by the red card. But they're still lost, let's be blunt, right? But it wouldn't have been 6-0, maybe 3-0 or something. But here's the thing, where I get frustrated with Celtic, when I say Celtic, the people who run the club, when it comes to on the field and supporting or not supporting the manager, every one of us, including the manager, and he's more subtle this time round. He's definitely more subtle. He's not having the digs that he did the last time. He's definitely a bit more longer. It seems to be a longer plan this time. Whether that's true or not, that's a different conversation. But the point I'm trying to make is this: we clearly didn't invest in first team ready players over the summer. And I don't think that's open to debate. We brought in a lot of good, hopefully very good young players. Hopefully for the next 12, 18, 24 months will become established. They'll become very good players. And if they're really exceptional, they'll probably get moved on for a significant profit. That in itself is fine. But to give ourselves a sniff, and I'm not saying going to Madrid and beating Atletico Madrid 2-0. What I'm saying is maybe getting a result in Feyenoord, in Rotterdam against Feyenoord, maybe beating Lazio at home. If we'd have had maybe 2 or 3 good first team players then, that makes the first team stronger, and then in essence makes the bench stronger because some of the guys then become bench players to come on, you give yourself a chance. I don't think we've given ourselves a chance to be as competitive as we can be this season. And I really hope, we all hope, that history's no kind to us this way. I really hope that come January and certainly next summer, that Rodgers is allowed to strengthen with that fortune we've got sitting there.
Well, that's the key. We talked about when Postecoglou took the job, you can't judge it as his squad until he's had 3 transfer windows. And we got to do exactly the same with Rodgers, even though we knew what we were getting with him. He's got to have 3 windows. So the first window realistically wasn't his.
He didn't get back the first window, did he? Any first team players?
No. But those players were already earmarked. I think Jota going out the door, Starfelt going out the door were unplanned. I think there was an expectation that those boys would stay. So he's already 2 down, if you want to call it that. They brought in all the project players because it's better to have them and get a look at them and then see. I would expect, a net outgoing of at least 4, if not 5 in January. And that'll be, the edges. So, like, ones who aren't going to make it, Kobayashi's not going to make it here, Ideguchi's not going to make it here. They'll be sold or moved on. So you move all those out of the way, you give them 1 or 2, but January's a difficult window. In reality, they have to give them something because it's really, really important to win the league this year, to qualify for the extended Champions League next year. And it's really next summer, Hector. That's when you'll see. And what we really should be aiming for, well, we need a new goalkeeper, we can talk about the positions, etc., is a net influx of 4 starting players of a decent wage and of a decent transfer fee in the next 2 windows. Otherwise, they're not backing them, to your point.
See, Desi, I was going to... We did this conversation before, right? Sorry, I jumped in. We had this conversation before. No. But we kind of jumped in. That was fine. But this is where I'm a simple guy. I see things simplistically, right? I look at Celtic and think to myself, why should we not have 11 players of the same level of Carter Vickers, Kyogo, Matt Riley? How can we not have 11 players of that level? It's not about cash because we can afford to have 11 players at that level, right? And that in turn gives us a stronger bench, a core maybe 16, 17, 18 players supplemented by projects and academy players. How can we not have 11 players of a similar, good, strong standard? We know stragglers.
But who's
What's
not
stopping that?
Okay, can we challenge that?
So
who's not at that standard? Yeah.
Monty, hold on. Yeah, I was about to say, I'm looking at this. Sorry, I thought to back up your point. I'm looking at the squad for that Atletico game, right? So this is the subs that we had that night. Lagabielka, Nat Phillips, Yang, Turnbull, Home, O and Iwata all got on after 46 to 71 minutes, right? And then you've got the next 4 on this list: Scott Bain, James Forrest, Anthony Ralston, Stephen Welsh. There's 4 of your contingent to help with your Champions League. But I would like to know any Celtic fan who thinks they would put any of their players straight into their first team. I mean, like that, they've all got at least 2 to 3 years currently still left on their contracts. Welsh and Bain have got 4-year deals.
You need.
So is Ralston. Yeah, but I know that's in the Champions League. But
need those players
that's still
part of the squad.
The quality's getting right down there. And then number 90, last sub, Michael Johnson. Right? And then your first team, Hart, Johnson, Carter Vickers, Scales, Taylor, O'Reilly, McGregor, Paulo Bernardo, another punt to hope for the best.
Loan. Yeah.
Exactly. Again, he's just a loan, so he's an option to buy. Let's see how it works out. But again, would you put Maeda in before I had Tati coming back? I doubt many people would, to be honest. Maeda, Kyogo, Palma. So where are you changing there, for instance, right? So I would say the keeper's your first I'd like to see Hart being your backup keeper because he's a quality backup, as you mentioned, Hector. You want to raise the whole squad, not just the coach. So I'd go for like a younger. So is there no any, like, I heard that Liam Kelly getting mentioned in regards to Scotland up in this week. I don't know if he's any good. No, I don't know if he's any good. I'm just saying, are there no any good Scottish goalkeepers? What about that boy Gunn that plays for Scotland? If you need a Scottish player for Champions League, is there any good Scottish goalkeepers? That kind of question. You know what I mean?
But Monty's question, of course, it's a healthy debate. But the point of having, my opinion, right, of having, and every team has injury suspensions. I get all that. Hence why you want a good depth of maybe 17, 18 players of a comparable level. Maybe not possible. But our target should always try to be if we're starting 11 of a level that we've demonstrated we can bring in. We can bring in a Kyogo. Yeah, we can bring in an Alistair Johnston, a Carter Vickers. You know, you mentioned Joe Hart. Yeah, Joe Hart's been great, but we should have maybe replaced Joe Hart over the summer. Yeah. Right? I think that's not been unfair to Joe Hart. Joe's been great coming in. But I think time catches up with everyone. The cause of the first goal away in Rotterdam was Joe's fault. Kyogo jumped, but Joe should have saved it. And he's had the right. We're being honest about it. Greg Taylor, there's two. Rogers had mentioned a more physically imposing team, a bit of presence needed. I mean, there's nothing to stop us getting Greg Taylor becoming a really adequate backup left back for us instead of
Mackenzie Aberdeen.
No, but it means your squad becomes you're actually upskilling the squad as well in terms of depth as well if he becomes a backup. So there's a left back as well. I think a number 6 in mid is one we've all spoken about with presence, you know. So immediately there's 3 or 4 players there, and then it means you can rotate throughout the season because you're bringing somebody off the bench who's every bit as good, almost as the guy they're replacing. So I'm just thinking out loud. We've got the cash to be able to do that. I just think it's like Groundhog Day with us. You know, it doesn't matter who the manager is. We just seem to hit this never-ending cycle of that'll do you, right?
Just to challenge. Sorry, Desi, if I could just come in on that. You rhymed off the bench, and if I'm remembering it, so stop me. I'll probably miss one or two, but Nat Phillips, Liverpool on loan. Yang, South Korean Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year. Lager Bielka just won some award in Sweden, I think, and a Swedish internationalist. Odin Holm, I think Young Player of the Year in Norway, and really tipped. And then you have the 4 Scottish contingent that you need are homegrown players, or if not 5.
5 will get Turnbull also.
Turnbull also, who's probably going to leave.
Turnbull,
but,
Payne, Forrest, Ralston, Welsh.
Right, all of whom, with the exception of Welsh, have played for Scotland. My point on it is, these are all international level players, and they're international level players in markets that we can afford. And just in the background there, I seen Man City posted a turnover of 718 million for 1 year.
Yeah, but they're cheats, Monty. They're cheats. You're not comparing that. I mean, they've just cheated the system like Abramovich, haven't they?
But this is just pure turnover. They brought in 718 million on which they made an 80 million profit. We brought in 110 million and made 7 million profit or something?
Yeah, but it was something like 400 odd million in wages. They've just paid the highest ever amount in wages. But again,
you see what I mean? We have a bench. Sorry, Daddy. We have a bench that I think is appropriately tooled for our level in the hierarchy of European football. We're shopping in markets that are at a price point that don't hurt us. But to Hector's point, there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be spending 6, 8, 10 million pounds on a player to give Rodgers that physicality and that level of quality that you don't get in a 21, 22-year-old. Because even though they're players of the year, like Yang's starting to come on the game, as is Palma, they're going to look like 2 absolute bargains, I think, once they've really settled in. Which is great scouting and great work for the club. Who would you replace them with? Who would you spend 8 million on who is a 25 to 26-year-old winger, proven, international, who would make a difference for us in the Champions League? Who would you replace McGregor with? in the number 6 role who is 25, 26, proven and can make a difference for us in the Champions League? These are the questions, and I think it's a conundrum that I don't think any club really can solve it when you've got the constraints that we have domestically and with our money. That's just my top and top.
Right, no, right, because again, that's a very good point, and Ralph, feel free to jump in, because there's been a perfect example to the other side of that, Monty, in the last 2 weeks, and that's been Copenhagen playing against Man United. Man United spent 400 million. Copenhagen spent 8 million last summer and brought in players like Jordan Larson for 2 million. Mm-hmm. And then the Copenhagen, that what's that boy? Is it Melling, the boy who played for Rosenborg? Remember, and we always talk about buying him. We brought him back, I think, for France for 2 million. But like they went out and bought something like 3 26-year-olds and 3 21-year-olds. So there's a wee bit of balance, a wee bit of experience to go with your potential, and then they'll get that wonder kid done now. But again, we've always got a wonder kid who never seems to make it. So again, so you've got your Rocco Vatters sitting twiddling their thumbs, wondering when I'm going to get a chance. I just looked at our squad, and like our forwards: Palma, Kyogo, Abada, Yang, O, Tillio, Maeda, Johnson. We've literally got 2 centre forwards. When you think of like a team, a Celtics stature in our eyes, we'll get 2 centre forwards. Mind you, used to always be, you need at least 4 strikers to win your games. We'll get six wingers and 2 centre forwards in my squad, which didn't seem really balanced to me. So I think Copenhagen's a good argument of there is possibilities here. Ralph, you any thoughts? You don't say that for a while.
Strikers, 2 men strikers, and both of them could be at the Asian Cup in January. Yep. Which, if everything happens to them, well, they're out there as well. Which, to my mind, the way Rodgers has been talking, he's been praising Liam Scales of late. He's been saying that the boy needs a new contract and so on and so forth. He wouldn't have been in the team if it wasn't for injuries to others. But the counter argument to that would be Bernardo, the boy that was playing reserve football somewhere, suddenly thrown as a kind of spin. We definitely need 4 or 5 players in, and I would suggest a couple of strikers, a seasoned kind of a midfield player that can do to the midfield what Joe Hart did to the defence when he first turned up. You got it organised, you got it a little more streetwise, etc. That's where we're short. It's all right having projects, and they may well turn out to be good, but it's always ever going to be short term, and nobody's learning from anybody else on the pitch. McGregor is our most experienced player outfield by far, and he doesn't strike me as a teacher.
I think that's a very good aspect of it, because at some point we talk about Joe Hart, etc. Callum McGregor is still very much the focal point, the pivot point, Hector to the team. Yeah. But the last few games, I don't know if Brendan's just given Awata some game time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But as Ralph says, is at some point Brendan have to go, wait a minute, is at that point where I need to consider that's no longer Callum McGregor's position. It might be a case of he moves forward, because I've seen a few reports saying your punter's saying he's wasted there, so to speak. He's better attacking the goal. Is that one to consider, you think?
Well, he can play. McGregor can play 6, 8 or 10, as he's done throughout his career. I think it'd be fair. I'm massive fan of Callum McGregor. I think it'd be fair to say he's no hit the same level as last season so far, and that's not been over. I don't think that's been overly critical. Just based on what I've seen. I'm not saying he's been rubbish, but he was so consistently good. He set the bar so high for us last season, the season before. I don't think he's quite reached that. It's not to say that he still won't, but the fact he plays that many games as rarely gets a break, eventually he's going to have to catch up on them. So I think that's more about game management, and maybe Awata getting 1 or 2 more starts would help. But I just think as a club in terms of domestic success, yeah, it's difficult to complain, albeit when you look at the financial advantage we have over all the others, a bit like us in Europe going to play these teams a massive advantage over us, and we get beat most of the time. We have that hold here. It's just for us, when we've got the stadium, we've got the fan base, we've got the historic name, and we've got a mountain of cash sitting in the bank, and we made a net profit over summer transfers, knowing with the Champions League to get into and all that money, you say, come on, you can do more. Nothing guarantees success, but at least demonstrate you're making an effort to get the balance right. Let's bring in 2 or 3 experienced players, not in their 30s, but maybe mid kind of 20s, 26, 25, 26, and balance that with 2 or 3 younger guys. I don't think that's much to ask for.
Right. But thanks very much for that, Casey. This reminded me of something. I basically did a lot of preparation for last week's podcast that never happened. Right? So let's just take this down a wee quick tangent. Monty, I know you like a quiz. What comes next? It's a E-Tim's only connect sequence quiz, right? What comes next? 1, 2, 3. What comes next? Monty, you there?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. What comes next?
Well, the obvious answer is 4.
Well, what's your answer? I'm asking you a question. What's your answer? 1, 2, 3. What's next?
6.
No, the answer is, of course, 3. And that is to do with the number of points we have in the Champions League since we've been in it the last few times. And I did a wee bit of research preparing for this, right? So let's just try to give a bit of a reality check. So 2002 to 2009, the number of points we got each season. So again, this could come back to the whole investing in quality. 2002 to 2009, the number of points we got each season, 9, 7, 5, 9, 9, 5. Right? The last 5 seasons so far, 10, we managed to get 10, 3, 3, 3, 2. In the last 20 years, circa since season 2002, Ralph, we have not been in the Champions League 10 of those seasons. So Peter Lawwell's statement of we have to always remember we may not always make it, that kind of bears that out. It's a kind of 50-50 chance that we're actually going to win the Champions League on a season. But the minimum points we've had is 2 points, which was last season. We've got a point so far. The most was 2013, 10 points, and in the group we had Barcelona, Spartak Moscow, and Benfica. And so we're not exactly in a mugs group there. That was an actual really competitive group. The average, and I'm asking, is this your reality? The average over those 20 years is 5.7 points, so just under 2 wins. But the average in the last 5 Champions League group stages, Ralph, 2.4 points. So we have to realise that we are a top 4 team who are going to finish 4th. Is that the current reality of who we are in European football?
The biggest difference straight away between those seasons 20 years ago and the seasons now is people keep beating us at home.
Good point.
That's the biggest difference. You're just saying there they have 5.7 points a campaign. That's not even 2 home wins out of 3. At one time we were invincible at Celtic Park. Now it's more like a tourist attraction than it is a football ground. It's everybody's bucket list. I went on about this before, but they look forward to coming. And if they're looking forward to it, then they're less nervous. They'll play their own game. They put up a resistance, if that's the right word. We're dropping points to them time after time. We need to make it horrible, even if it means putting fake signposts at the airport. Whatever, just annoy them, disrupt them, turn the cold water on, everything possible to make it a horrible.
Go to full Simeone. Is that what you're saying here? You, to be fair, you have said that. You have been banging on quite rightly about this for years, as in how sick it is to see foreign players and foreign teams say we're looking forward to a lovely night at Parkhead rather than welcome to hell, Galatasaray style.
Visit Celtic Park the way we felt on Tuesday night. They should hate coming here. They should think, oh no, we've got to go over there. It's horrible. We're not going to win. It's all about mentality. When we play a team in Scotland from Scotland, we concentrate on our own game. When we play a team from Europe, we concentrate on their game. Let them concentrate on how horrible a night they're going to have. Let them worry about us. They don't anymore. We make it too nice for them. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got to get them. In my notes, I do have here, nice guys finish last, discuss. But I'll come to Monty and Hector. You're right with 2 quotes I've written down. quotations for this is for last week's podcast, but we'll use them tonight. History repeats itself. First as tragedy, second as farce. Karl Marx, CSC, right? Because I think that applies pretty well to Celtic in Europe these days. And then we have those that fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. That was the Churchill dog. Do we think that those apply to Celtic fairly, or am I being overly critical, Hector and Monty?
Well, I just mentioned Groundhog Day, and that's kind of what it is. And I just think ultimately we've got a very good manager. Prior to that, a very good manager, which is great. But if you've got a very good manager, that's your time, that's your opportunity to try and do things a bit better. And a bit better, what I mean is a better quality of player. Yeah. Bringing a better, it's ultimately about the quality of player to match the quality of coaching. If you've got a shit coach and good players, you might win a lot of games, but ultimately you'll lose a lot of the ones that you should win because the manager's rubbish. If you've got a really good manager and poor players, he'll get the best out of them. If you've got a really good manager and really good players, the world could be your oyster, right? I'm not saying for a second Celtic could win the Champions League, but we could compete. We could compete to finish second, and right now we're so far off. It's actually bordering on embarrassing. And I get it if there's no cash to spend. We've got cash to spend. Spend it wisely. Spend it on a 6, 7, 8 million pound guy at 24, 25-year-old with a bit of tactical nous, a bit of experience, a bit of physicality. 2 or 3 of them added to what we've got with that pace and skill. We'll see the improvement. We might beat Feyenoord home and away or take 4 out of 6 against them, take 4 out of 6 against Lazio, and that's you through to the knockout stages. I know I'm simplifying it, but in essence, it's quality, a bit more quality that's needed to give ourselves a chance.
I don't disagree with all you said, but I think there's a sense of perspective missing from both how you're reading it, Desi, and also the analogy you've just given, Hector. And they're all sound points, but I just have to disagree on one particular level. Our average cycle time for the team and squad is 2 years. This is different if it was the same settled team, like O'Neill's team, which by and large was the same settled team for 4 years, if not 5, with a few added around the edges and one particular genius up top. So you can't really look at us through a similar lens to, I mean, look at Bayern Munich, look at City, look at Liverpool. Klopp's now building his second team. The Klopp has basically squeezed 5 years out of what he had, and he's gone again. Guardiola, and again, these are ones with huge resources at their disposal to buy the top end players, but they don't win the Champions League every year. Like Atletico finished bottom of a group last year. So a realistic lens to look at Celtic through is being competitive, but competitive within the parameters that we have. We went down to 9 men in Rotterdam against a team that we had gone toe-to-toe with, and probably, I think, are their equal. We got mugged in the 95th minute against Lazio, who are a poor team, and I think we'll go there and get something. I'm the eternal optimist that's in me. I think we'll beat them, actually, in Rome. I think they're shite. They've 4 of their points they've stolen in the last minute, the 3 against us and 1 against Athletic. We'll definitely beat Feyenoord at home. I have no doubt about it. Now, with the caveat that now we've lost Maeda, we're kind of that little bit more blunt. But I think we're at that level with the existing squad that we have. The enhancements are absolutely bang on the money if you can retain the existing level of quality you have. But the reality is, Matt O'Reilly's going to be sold, if not in January, in the summer. Someone else will go, if not in January, in the summer. And Rodgers is back to trying to refill quality again. So I agree, but I don't agree if I'm allowed to do that, Hector.
No, of course, we'll have no debate. But just on your point, sorry, Desi, just on Monty's point there about, I wouldn't disagree with what you say, but here's where I think nothing's certain, right? But if we had strengthened 2 or 3 first team player positions this summer, who's to say we couldn't have won, or at least not lost in Rotterdam? So there's one. Joe Hart. Joe's been great. Joe was at fault for the first goal, right on half time. Cool goal jump. Joe should have saved that. We get at half time, nothing each, 11v11, having been the better team in the first half. Who's to say we couldn't have gone on and won that game in the second half? Hope with Lazio, 2 or 3 better first team players might have turned that 1-all 94th minute breakaway into a 2-1 or 3-1 Celtic victory. So it's fine margins, but fine margins. Surely your margins of winnings increase by having a better quality, a player.
Oh, no, totally. But when you're losing the existing quality that gets you to that level, you're constantly having to go to the well to backfill what you've just lost. And that 2-year cycle.
Right?
But not every club doesn't do it. Sorry, go on ahead, Rob.
The likes of Kyogo, Maeda, Hatate have all just signed new contracts, new 4 or 5 year deals. They've already been here 2 years. It seemed that Rodgers, when he came in, obviously there was nothing he could do with getting players in the summer. So he took a good look at what he's got.
How's there nothing they could have done? How's there nothing they could have done? Because we knew Postecoglou was away early. Rodgers is talking to Mallorca to the powers that be early. Surely there was plenty he could have done in the summer.
I think he made his mind up that quickly. I think there was a wee bit of turn and fro, and he got the guarantees he wanted. But then he maybe took a step back.
You have to answer your own question. What guarantees did they want then? If it wasn't better players immediately?
For the next 2 or 3 transfer windows. I think he maybe cut his losses on that one to have a look at what he had. And of course, we'd get players in anyway that had already been bought, already been scouted, and had joined up. So I think he wanted to look at what he'd got before he makes his move. I think there will be a change in policy. Was it not Rodgers that signed Edward for $9 million, which is still a club record? So I think actually was on there that was halted by intervention, as we're pretty sure from the board. I think the guarantee would have had is they're not going to do that this time. Because it would have taken, I still think, a lot for them to come back, and there must have been assurances on both sides. So I hate to wait and see, because it's a terrible way of looking at things to an extent, but I think we're going to be all right this time next year.
All right, so I admire all of yours optimism, right? Because I think he's a very, very optimistic, and I am very pessimistic in comparison. Because if I was putting up posts in our WhatsApp chat regards Rodgers, who was at Liverpool, etc., and how there was times when he didn't need to win a game. He could have just taken the point and moved on and put the pressure elsewhere, etc. So I'm just looking here. So last week, that was kind of spurred by the whole Chelsea playing 9 men on the halfway line with Postecoglou, and then people complaining about how he couldn't change his ways, right? A man who sticks with his philosophy regardless of the reality, watching goals flying in, right? So Rodgers in Europe, let me just see. Rodgers in Europe, if we're talking about cycles here, Rodgers suffered his 13th loss in 23 away European ties. His last goal away was 2018, and Celtic have conceded 46 goals and netted 19 times. So we're just optimistic that he'll get it right. Was that what we're saying? And I'm posing the question.
This is the same, but Desi, this is the same misnomer as adding quality and we'll get to the next level. In between all that, Rodgers took Leicester to a semi-final of a European competition. You can't. You can't compare our Champions League escapades in 2017 with 2023, even though they're only 6 years apart. Is there one, apart from James Forrest, is there one player who played in 2017 in our squad right now? McGregor, Cal Mack and James Forrest.
So did Alston.
So what's your point there? So that doesn't mean anything, as in the question is...
It's not Celtic Football Club. Celtic Football Club is not the metric.
My question is the manager evolving enough to learn how to win away in Europe? Because Celtic don't appear to be able to win away in Europe.
Or at home.
But he won a load of matches with Leicester City with a different squad.
That's a different world and a different. We're talking about.
It's not.
So the question is: So you believe that Rodgers?
The evidence is right there, Your Honour. With a better, I'm going to make Hector's point for him. With a better quality of player, Brendan Rodgers can get a mediocre English team to a European semi-final.
That's all I asked for, Monty. It's all I asked for.
You're welcome, champion. Now, with a better quality of player, can Brendan Rodgers get, and let's be honest, lads, we're a fucking really mediocre European team. Can Brendan Rodgers get a mediocre Celtic Football Club to a European semi-final? Well, we're not going to land in the Conference League because we'd need to have a really fucking terrible season to do that. So could Brendan Rodgers get us to a quarter-final or a semi-final of the Europa League? Well, actually, we're not going to land in the Europa League either, because if we win the league, then we get the riches of the Champions League in the newly expanded Champions League, which means we're in the bottom half of that. So the best you can hope for is 12 European games. So with all of that logic, can Brendan Rodgers learn to win games at Champions League level in the bottom half of this new expanded 18 or 24 team league? Absolutely. Caveat, with a better quality of player.
What was Rodgers' win percentage in getting Leicester to a semi-final?
It doesn't really matter. He got them to a semi-final, but I know that
four games at 8, he won to get Leicester to an actual semi-final in a Conference League.
How many did he lose, if of interest?
Two.
Right, so he lost 2 out of 8 games.
So that's one way to spin it.
Well, you've done it the other way. You've completely went
here.
Let's downplaying getting the semi-final of the European trophy.
You're the man with your finger on all the stats. So let's talk about the football genius that is Steven Gerrard, and let's talk about the other team across the city spunking 100 million, and they got the Europa League final. What was his win percentage to get to a
Forget
everybody else. Not Steven Gerrard.
Everybody else.
Who got sacked?
No, I'm saying forget everybody else. My question just to you is do you think Rodgers will learn for us to progress in Europe? Do you actually believe in your heart of hearts that we will make progress over the next 2.5 seasons under Brendan Rodgers? It's not a loaded question, it's an open question. What do you think? Ralph, do you think we'll progress in Europe under Brendan Rodgers? And by the way, I'm quite happy for us to finish. I'm talking about progress as in being able to play a European style approach that wants to get results. I'm not talking about winning it, or be winning a group, even just making progress as in advancing football wise. Do you think we'll manage that under Brendan Rodgers? Ralph?
In the Real Madrid game, right? They're a good side. They got the hang of us towards the end of the game. At 2 each, we brought on another defender. We strengthened the defence. The game then became about not getting beat as opposed to winning it. You'll get the Twitter reaction was, why did you take the forwards off? That meant we weren't doing that. That was game management. That was moving up that level not to lose, which in a six-match format, it's as important not to lose sometimes as it is to win. If he takes that a step further with better players next season, then he would have learned. I think he's learned already. If he can implement that with better players next season, we might be onto something.
I've got a caveat with mine's Desi, right? And it's got to be a caveat. This is things outside Brendan Rodgers' control. It completely is. He's made the point now several times that he wanted, it's on record, more presence, a bit of experienced presence in the first team, and it wasn't delivered. If that's added in, that experience, to some of the talent we've got, then I don't see why not, because I look at the 4 games we've played this season, and there's only 1 game we got horsed. I think the first 3 games were highly competitive. And I think if we played those same 3 opponents, if we've got broadly the same players, I think we've got broadly the same team, which won't be the case, but we had improvements to ours. I wouldn't, I would suggest that we'd be looking to win at least 1 or 2 of those games. So I think yes, but only if he's backed, only if he's given that support, and he doesn't control that.
Here's the thing, Desi. I flicked it into the WhatsApp, and it's the eternal optimist in me who has watched a few of Lazio's games, and I really do think they're a poor team. So are we at that level. But Lazio are a very beatable team. We said that our ambition in the Champions League this year was to be going into the last game with a 50-50 shootout against Feyenoord for the Europa League. That's what our ambition was this year. Now, it's obviously made harder by the fact that Feyenoord got a freak result and beat Lazio, and Feyenoord are sitting on 9 or whatever it is. They're catchable, but they're on 6 points or whatever it is. So there's a couple of things we need to go in our favour week after next. But that said, if we beat Lazio and we go to that 50-50 shot, because I'm with Hector on this, I think we've already improved in Europe. I look at the quality of our performances in those, even in the fourth game before the sending off. I think we've already matured as a team. I think there's a lot more pragmatism than Brenton's first time here. But if we go to Lazio and win, would you back against us beating Feyenoord at home in the last match? Because I think when we're all in with Rodgers, when it's not backs to the wall, but when we have to do it at that top level with Rodgers as coach, whatever it is he does in the background, we by and large do it. I think there's just something about when we need to, we can. And that's the optimist in me, I guess. But would you back against this?
Big issue, Monty, with that game in away in Rome is that we're missing 3. We're starting 10 outfield players: Rio Hatate, Maeda, and Palma. I mean, so before we kick a ball, we're missing 3.
We're relying on James Forrest to come up with the goods.
And that's the worry.
Talking about,
if they're all fit, I would actually fancy us to go there and give it a right good go and possibly do it. But I just think the cards are stacked against us by missing those 3 players.
Yes.
In Rome, and we beat Feyenoord at Celtic Park. If Atletico win their 2 games, they qualify the next round of the Champions League. Which, on paper, with all teams having 11 players on the park, isn't an unbelievable scenario, given that we won in Rome the last time we won. Right?
Yeah.
The problem is
we need to beat. We beat Lazio by 2 goals and beat Feyenoord at home, and we finished second in the group.
For those who aren't able to see the screen right now, it's wonderful, right? Because you've got Ralph.
He's about to cry.
Super optimistic. You've got Monty.
It must be special.
Monty, super optimistic, and you've got Desi there, right? Head in his hands, sweat pissing out, completely pissing out. Mr. Angry, ready to explode, but somehow retaining a bit of self-control before he comes in a second.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Love is, in the words of Bono, love is blindness. That's all I'm going to say. Because again, I'm just looking at my notes for the moment I made last week. Right, nice guys finished last discussed. Are we cursed or just bring it on ourselves? Is it just bad luck, bad refs, or a bad board, or are we just bad? And how far are we truly away from being genuine group campaign contenders? Right, so here's the next question. Well, this is the final wrap up on this one. Monty, I'll start with you, right? Because I think it's starting to get quite interesting. Should we win the league, are you confident we could succeed in a Champions League qualifier, given the fact that the coefficients are looking very dangerous at the moment, given the fact that a few of our national teams are starting to surge up the coefficients? Scotland's 10th place is in danger. Are you confident that we'll be able to go into the next summer? I know I'm not loading any questions. I noticed last week for something like Denmark, I think, Serbia, there's about four countries are basically...
No, the winner's guaranteed next year, Desi. The winner's guaranteed next year. It's the season after that. We're guaranteed to get... Whoever wins is guaranteed. It's the season after that's under a lot of pressure.
Okay. Well, we'll skip that then. Forget that then. Right, quickly, talk about Palma not making it. Palma does not make the game because he received 2 yellow cards, Monty. One of the cards was for celebrating a disallowed goal, taking his shirt off for a disallowed goal, and the other was for actually daring to speak to the referee. Is there a current issue with refereeing standards and VAR in football that you can quickly cover? Do you believe, or is it just one of those things, as Anne says, just go on with it? You've just got to take it on the chin and move on.
I think it was a well-intentioned experiment that's failed. I think they should just bin it, but they won't because there's too much money involved now. You either move into a rugby scenario where there's an intervention and the guy actually up in the bird's nest is looking for every minute breach of a law, or you make it really, really clear what VAR can and can't do, because at the minute no one knows. So if you look at the Maeda, you look at how the Maeda sending off played out. the referee was shown a still. The referee seen it in real time and thought, it's a clash, it's a yellow card, a wee bit reckless. And then he's shown a still, which is about a tenth of a second, where the position of his foot is high and at a dangerous angle. Like 0.2 of a second before that, 0.2 of a second after it. It's not what the referee sees. So VAR has actually framed the argument for the ref. VAR has said, we see this, you didn't see it, come and have a look. Now, if that's VAR's job, fine. But then VAR has to be 100% involved in the game from the start, not just on selected moments. And I think that's how they fix it. But then you move to rugby, which means that there's going to be a stoppage every slight infringement. There'll be a penalty every time there's a corner. All those usual debates that are all cliched now. I'm with Rogers on it, what he said. Just take it out. Just fuck it. Go back to human error. We were cheated long enough. We were cheated for over 120 years before they brought VAR in. They're just going to cheat again anyway. So domestically, yeah. I think Europe also, Desi. I think there's just different standards and different interpretations in Europe. And that guy in the Atleti match, I think we had previous with him, Ralph, if I'm not mistaken. Did we make a complaint about him a few years prior?
He sent Van Dijk off many, many years ago. And I think we complained about it, kind of official lodging of a complaint about either his competence or whatever. And obviously it's something who's crawling. He come back to us.
Yeah, but he never sent off Maeda. That's Monty's point. He seen it as a yellow card. It was the guys in VAR who then took it to that still frame that almost was giving them no get out. It was almost saying to him, you've got to send him off. So I mean, the ref didn't send Maeda off. He seen it as a yellow card.
I thought he was petty anyway up to that point, if I'm honest, Hector. But still, but the VAR point to Desi's question, I just think the whole thing's just getting a wee bit shambolic now. If you look at even what's happened in England with Arsenal and Liverpool, like Liverpool demanding a fucking replay. Come on.
It was the Spurs Chelsea game Desi spoke about a couple of minutes ago. The first half was at 15 minutes added time. And a lot of that, there was a couple of injuries, and that's happened. So there's 5 minutes. But it must have been the best part of 10 minutes was due to the VAR interventions in the first half. It was just crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. It works in rugby. Like, it works in rugby. I don't know if you
that World Cup was great. That Rugby World Cup was great. But again, the openness, American football is exactly the same. American football, the guys mic'd up. Everybody in the stadium knows exactly what's happening. Nobody's got an issue with it. Why is it not the same in all football? I just don't understand. I'm not even getting any conspiracy theories, but across the game in football, it should be there all the time, as in, this is why I'm making this decision, this is what I'm being told by the technical officer. But that whole kind of paranoia of who's on VAR today, and again, VAR framing everything in a negative, you need to look at this, or you need to try and cancel that goal out. It's all very kind of strange. But Hector, we did have the joys of Willie Collum giving us a penalty that no one actually suspected we were going to get on Sunday. The guy behind me, there's no fucking chance that he's going to go to the monitor. And sure enough, off to the monitor he goes. So,
but you get your VAR penalties. See when you're coasting a game 2-0, going on 5-0. That's when you get your penalties, Desi. You don't get them when it's nothing each in the 84th minute, right? Well, certain clubs do, but we certainly don't.
God bless.
That's how they even themselves out over the season, Desi. When we're 3-0 up in posting.
Strangely, the thing that annoys me most about VAR is called video assisted referee, right? So a linesman will tell a referee if the ball's out of play, or if whoever puts the ball out for a corner, etc. But VAR doesn't get involved in those sorts of things. It only gets involved in red card issues, whereby the TV clearly shows you who it was that kicked the ball out or who committed, these sort of things. So why does VAR not immediately say to the guy, that was Monty who kicked it out? That's a throw going the other way, or that's a corner kick. But again, it would be just, rather than this being so. Again, that whole subjective word. How can a rule be subjective? How can a referee in England have a different perspective of a rule as a referee in Scotland, a referee in Italy? A rule should be a rule. IFAB's rule should be a rule. It's madness.
But it's always been the case, isn't it? Our game, sorry, Mon, but our game, rightly or wrongly, and I say our game, England's until recent years, theirs has changed a bit now. Our game was always more physical in the kind of Scotland, England, Ireland. It's just always a more physical game, and we always felt, get back to our youth, continental referees would book players for nothing. We felt. So I always think there was that domestic difference between us and, say, the Italian league or the Spanish league. And I think even in Europe, you still see that to this day to some degree.
I was going to ask, can you think of one really, and I'm talking recent seasons, a really significant one that we got away with? Or VAR intervened? I can't think of one.
There's only one. It was this season. I'm still shocked to this day. It was the game at Ibrox when they scored a goal and VAR told the ref to go and look at it. Honestly, I'm still amazed that, having weighed everything up, what we've seen over the last couple of years with VAR, or a year with VAR here, I'm still amazed that goal was disallowed based on everything we've seen today. So we've got one in my opinion. It was a fail. The fact it was
Watch how they fucking even that up. Yeah, watch how they even that up.
Then we won the cup. when Roy Aitken just grabbed the ball when it was their throw in. He took the throw in and drove from
my favourite goal of all
89.
time. Ralph, that's my favourite goal of all time.
I think they had
Really going back 34 years between us getting a trick from a ref.
We'll maybe do another one now.
Right, we've only got a few minutes left. Let me get to these quick points. Ralph, the Green Brigade and the board are still in contention. Various issues ongoing, but the board trying to lessen some of the bad publicity during the week by announcing the Player of the Year awards at the Hydro. You could pick up a ticket for almost £56 tonight. Have you purchased your ticket yet?
Oh, I wish you'd told me earlier. I'm going to see Susie Quattro instead.
Can. Susie. And what was her name in Happy Days for everyone out there doing the quizzes? Do you remember?
Leather Tuscadero.
Well done. God bless Susie Quattro. Happy Days. Right, and then finally, Ralph, Hector has asked me to frame this as the most rhetorical question in the universe ever. Ralph, the Hunt finances and the Clermont current media orgasm, the most rhetorical question in the world ever. Will they ever fucking learn?
It's fun, isn't it? We'll get many more years of laughter out of them yet.
Yeah, again, but like there's been loads of people doing analysis, Hector. Well, I'm watching Monty on his travels indoors here. I'll let him get settled. But Hector, there's been a few wee pieces of analysis online regards the whole finances. The media trying to punt it as an operating profit of 200 grand, when in fact it's actual £4 million losses, purely backed up by director loans. We've seen a few directors disappear over the horizon in the last few years. Is it basically Valentine's Day 2 on the horizon, do you think? Or is there always a sugar daddy to help them out?
I know this probably isn't the answer you want to hear. Maybe it is, right? But I can't believe a Celtic fan is just scunnered, doesn't care anymore, right? And I know that. I know many folk do. And I'm not criticising them. For me, it's just that I can't even be asked now with anything to do with their finances. What will be, Desi. That's how I see it.
No, that's a very good point. It's a really good point, because I think you echo a lot of people's sentiments, as in there'll probably a few people listening going, why are we even discussing it? But Ralph is all right. Monty's finally got back on his couch. Monty, as you will know, has been our resident finance expert, the fate of Rangers' finances will weigh heavily on the Celtics board mind, will it not?
There's a real danger in this. I watched the Munich against Dortmund match. I think I mentioned it in the WhatsApp. It's marketed as their Clasicer. They have El Clasico, obviously, in Spain. And they're actually marketed. They're marketed for TV, not as the two clubs playing against each other, but this nebulous fucking thing that used to be the Old Firm until they went bust. The danger is, if they do go bust again, or if they start to live within their means, that the league becomes uncompetitive. That's always been the excuse as to why Scottish football, quote unquote, needs a strong Rangers. But right now, that's a business. You opened earlier talking with your Churchill quote about, history and fail to prepare and all that shit. The history repeating itself. They're doing exactly the same. That's a $4.5 million loss with 23 million of player sales plus a Europa League run. They're going to post an even bigger loss this year because their wage bill's bigger than ours. They've got other things like a $9.5 million court case that they didn't make a provision for in their accounts. I don't know who the fuck signed those books off, but there's problems there, and they're major problems. Their only hope, they're all in again. Their only hope is that they win the league, and we don't, and they get to the Champions League, because if they don't, you're talking another 10, 15, 20 million loss. And I know Phil McGilliwan ran a little story on it a week or two ago about financial fair play and what Scotland are going to do, because there's now a fair play auditor in place. So I'm with Hector. As long as we look after ourselves, fuck them. I would have preferred they really died properly and never came back, in whatever guise they've come back in. Would they be as fun if they started living within their means and we just slap them about a bit like we do with Hearts? That's not to get arrogant about it, because they'll still have their day. I'd prefer they just went away completely, and then Scottish football could recalibrate, but that's just me.
Yeah, right. So to tie this up in a nice bow, Ralph, I'll put the final point to you then. Again, does that then tie into Celtic investing heavily in quality when they turn around and say, the board will say, we just need to do enough to make sure we're always winning in Scotland? Is that the great Celtic balancing act if you're a board member, Ralph?
I think it might have been a couple of 3 years ago. If they would adopt a policy for the next, say, 5 years or whatever period, then people would lose interest. We wouldn't have the same income as we have. season books drop the way that during the Dial years, merchandising would drop. Suddenly in the Europa League every year because the coefficient isn't high enough. There is a delicate balance, but that's only if you're doing it for purely financial reasons. None of us want to see a Celtic run purely for financial reasons, and I'm hoping the board can see it that way as well.
All right, so fair enough. So it's a case of let's see what happens. So we'll just wrap up now. We're in the international break. Monty, who's Northern Ireland got this fortnight? Have you got any big games at all? Are you all finished? And you just us smug Scottish people, we can sit back knowing that we've qualified and all that jazz.
Well, no, with the GAS season over, none of the Northern Irish teams have any fixtures until the National League starts again.
Are you officially a Portuguese fan now, just to get this into contact?
As regards the international break, I'll be watching Mikey Johnson and Liam Scales in some dead rubber while supporting my newly naturalised Portuguese status.
Fair enough. Hector,
I was just
going to say something there?
Yeah, just one thing we've not discussed. It was actually the 6-0 win at the weekend, which, considering we get pumped 6-0, and all the players and all the fans, fan group, we know the Green Brigade and the boys both weren't there, and the atmosphere was horrible. It was rubbish. It was dead. It's a morgue, right? For those who didn't have the chance to. It was just like a morgue. So fair play. The 6-0 I thought was a really good return. Obviously 3 of the goals were very late in the game. I thought Abada's cross for O's header was out of this.
Abada? Is he back?
Palma's cross for O's header was out of this world. That outside of the right foot cross was sensational. And I just felt that Yang's best game to date, Palma's best game, and it's always good. Big O, I think, delighted for him. I think he just doesn't get much game time because Kyogo's that good. But I've never seen the guy, never once complains, just needs more game time, and 2 good goals. So, yeah, good 6-0 victory, Desi. Just want to finish the high.
No, exactly. And also, the whole fun, one of the aspects about O was it was a perfect result for him, given the fact that Giacomakis had been spouting his mouth off, complaining they never get his chance, etc. Because he won the America Newcomer Award, fair play to him. But big O, so yeah, and I think you could tell how happy the squad were for him, or the team were for him, and that nice wee shoe shine tribute to Palmer's contribution. But again, when you read all the match reports, everyone basically said Matt O'Reilly ran the game. So we're evolving from a Cal Mack running the game now to a Matt O'Reilly running the game. So maybe the team's kind of evolving play style. But in fairness, Aberdeen were shattered. You could tell they were knackered for the first. Yeah. The young boy next to me said, call it at 2-0 and everybody will be happy, because they just look shattered after their European exploits. But that's their problem, not ours. So we've got internationals this week, so the Scottish fans can go and celebrate. Apparently there's going to be a big tifo. I've been seeing notices around Hampden area. They're going to have a big tifo been set up over the weekend, so we'll see what happens there. And then Scotland have qualified, so that's nice. I don't think anybody's got any Euro 2024 tickets by the looks of it. The usual hospitality. Within 5 minutes of the tickets being balloted, there was a hospitality package for €1,250 kicking about for a game, so that was nice. So we're back to the same old. And other than that, I think we're back to Motherwell. So Motherwell may have a chance by the time we come back, so we'll wait and see what happens. And then we move into Christmas, and of course we move into the January window when we can come back and we can review how many quality signings we actually did invest in the January window, and we'll see 0, and Hector's putting up a big duck egg here with a big fat 0, and we'll see. But James McCarthy may come good. There's Monty saying 2. Ralph, I'll give you 1. So we spread. I think it was 2 he was saying to me there. I think it was indicating 2 players. Right, so that's it. So thanks very much everyone for listening. That was October/November. We'll be back hopefully before Christmas for a final end of year roundup, and we'll see how many people have actually bought Player of the Year tickets before then, or award tickets. It's just left for me to say thank you very much to Hector Bandido. Thank you very much, Hector.
Thanks, guys.
A quick update on the youngest Celtic fan in the E-Tims. How's the
wonderful
baby doing?
He's Celtic baby grows, Celtic pyjamas fit him perfectly. He's very close to wearing the Celtic strip, slightly too big for him. He's doing really well as our mum and dad. So yeah, all is good in North Carolina. Celtic supporters squad. Smashing.
And over to another man sitting in his Celtic baby grow, Ralph Malph. Thanks very much for joining us tonight, Ralph.
Cheers.
Sportsounds lost is our gain.
Well, more people.
And Ralph, will you be producing a diary? Have you been doing the diary lately? I've not had a chance to check.
I have had different stuff to do at work, which is killing me in the moment. I'm free at night.
He's writing for
Okay.
Sportsound now, Desi.
Yeah, exactly. He's always free for
The
BBC.
Sportsound diary, Ralph and Kenny.
Always free for the BBC. That's his new tagline on Twitter. So feel free to try and catch Ralph's diary at etims.net, and also you'll catch him on the Kenny McIntyre show 12 to 4 on a Saturday and 3 to 5 on a Sunday. Repeat.
Drowning in soup with Pat Nevin.
Let's not forget, drowning in soup with Pat Nevin and Tom English with a big ladle. Lovely. It's like the worst episode of Father Ted in the world. That's what happened.
I don't know what
And
voice.
then
A vision of that.
Monty.
Thanks very much, lads. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, thanks for listening. Apologies for the bit of us from Ash at the end there. My name's Desi. Good night.